Welcome to First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis, the birthplace of congregational humanism. We carry on that tradition of free thought today, dedicated to promoting a free search for truth, meaning, and justice. Our web address is firstunitarian.org. Thank you for joining us.
Hello. Good morning. I am just going to give a quick introduction to the music for this morning. Today we're going to be amplifying some compositional voices of non-binary and LGBTQ plus composers to coincide with this morning. And so I have three pieces that I'm going to play. The first is by Ahmed Alabaka, who is a contemporary African-American non-binary composer from California and New York, and he's still they are still working and composing and being an active composer today. So this is a piece that they wrote that is really inspired by Scott Joplin. They've studied Scott Joplin, and it's kind of a ragtime, classic ragtime kind of thing called Cash in the Can Rag. And the middle piece is a movement from Ethel Smythe, who was an out gay woman, and she wrote a Mass in D minor. She ended up being in a relationship with Virginia Woolf at the end of her life. And this is Sanctus, a movement from her Mass in D minor. That'll be the middle selection. And at the end, I'm going to play a piece by Billy Strayhorn, who is an out gay man in the 1930s through 1960s. He was basically known as the composer for most of, well, about 40% of Duke Ellington's catalog was actually written by Billy Strayhorn. And including Take the A Train and all of these hits. And they were very, very good friends. And it wasn't an antagonistic relationship. They were really, really good friends. But Duke Ellington just kind of helped Billy Strayhorn get a big audience for his music and made sure he was really well taken care of. And they had a great relationship. And Billy Strayhorn was really active in the civil rights movement as it was just starting, but unfortunately died kind of right in it. It was 1963 with esophageal cancer. So unfortunate. But anyway, I'm going to play one of his pieces called Lotus Blossom at the end. But right now, here is a piece called Cash in the Can Rag by Ahmed Alabaka.
Welcome to the First Unitarian Society on this beautiful sunny Sunday morning in Minneapolis on May 25th. Welcome to each of you whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever your pronouns, however you identify, whoever you love, whatever is breaking your heart right now, present in body here in this space, or present in this moment with us online, you are welcome here. It is good to be together and to gather together as a community of seekers in this place where we commit ourselves to live out our common values, to bring justice, equity, and compassion into our daily lives, to resist all that threatens the earth and her people, and to live out our dream of a world of community, of peace, safety, and justice for all beings. As we gather, let us attend to the need to walk humbly upon this land, the traditional land of the Dakota Oyate, and in particular of the Wapatuka tribe, who still call this place home. Recognizing the history of genocide and colonialism and their right to justice and self-determination, may we be good allies, advocates, and partners with them. First Unitarian Society is a member congregation of the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations. My name is Jane Graves, and I'm a member of the Sunday Assemblies team, which assists our interim minister, Rev Laura. Today, I'm joined by our special guest, Laura Smidzik, and I'll share more about her later. As with every Sunday, so many people are here contributing. Thanks go out to Mike, Cindy, Lena, Zola, Carol, Paul, and others. And I want to recognize the leadership support of Bruce and the rest of our amazing media team. Thank you. All ages are always welcome here in the Assembly Hall, which is evidenced by the multi-gen space in the back for families. And in addition, since this is the fourth Sunday of the month, we have our Ethical Explorers today and Zola for an intergenerational assembly. You'll also notice that we've created a space for those who wish to be masked and to be around those who are masked in the rear. Now I invite you, wherever you are, including those online, to take a moment to welcome the morning and to greet those around you, or to get up and get a teal and a gray songbook if you'd like. There will also be a QR code for those who wish to view an order of service on their phones. And take a moment and greet those around you. Each week, when we gather, we light our chalice as a symbol of Unitarian Universalism. We are led by its light, inspired by its flame, and drawn together by its warmth. We often light our chalice using words expressing our values and aspirations. Today, we'll use words from Reverend Sean Parker Dennison's collection of meditations called Breaking and Blessing. This piece is titled In Wholeness. As it's a longer reading, I'll read the beginning alone, and I'll invite you to join me when I indicate. An emissary from the Ethical Explorers is going to be lighting the flame for us today. All right. There is no competition between this light and the darkness which holds it. Both the light and the darkness are holy. We light our chalice not to defeat the darkness, but because, for a time, we need the gifts of flame, warmth, and light to guide us and help us in our endeavors. And when the time comes, we will embrace again the gentle dark which allows us to rest. And so, we kindle this light with awareness and gratitude for light and dark and all that lies in between, each with its gifts, each with its beauty, each part of a sacred and necessary whole. We light this chalice as a symbol of our faith, the light of truth, and the warmth of love. All right. Thanks, Simone. Thanks, Ola. And now that our chalice is lit, let's share in reading our congregational covenant. Love is the spirit of this place, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. All right. So we're going to be singing now. I was told we have the wrong number. It's 360 in the Gray Songbook. The words will be on the screen, or you can find that in the Gray Songbook. And Cindy's going to come on up. Please rise as you are willing and able. So now Zola Rosenfeld, our fabulous ethical education director, is making her way to the stage with some emissaries from the Ethical Explorers, or E Squared, to share some items from the E Squared exhibition, or E Cubed, yesterday.
Hello, everybody. Testing, testing. Good morning. Morning, everybody. Thank you for those of us who were able to join yesterday at the culminating end-of-year Ethical Explorers exhibition. It was an amazing time where we got to look at some of the amazing creative projects that the youth of FUS have made over the past program year. What a year it's been. One of many good ones to come, and our first official cohort of E Squared emissaries has graduated. Let's give a round of applause. So we have a couple brief highlights to share with you today. Some things that were created throughout the year that were also featured at yesterday's Ethical Explorers exhibition. And I think we're going to start with our song, We're going to start with this beautiful song. This is an original composition. It is titled 30 Seconds of Silence in the Rainforest, and it requires, as the name implies, we need complete silence in the audience because every part of this song, even the silence, is intentional. So I'm going to join us in that silence. This has been rehearsed many times, and it's a little different every time. You get the original version and here today. Great job, everybody. That was awesome. One more round of applause. Let's do it. And last but not least, this is a beautiful visual art project that was created by Simone. Would you like to share a little bit about it? You can just put those down. Here's the mic. I'll hold it for you. I'll tell people what it is and how you made it.
This is my collage.
What'd you make it out of? Magazines or newspapers?
I made it out of magazines.
What's it supposed to be? An animal? A bird?
I use like a head of a hummingbird, and I'm not sure what the bottom parts are.
Yes. Love it. Good job. There's been some amazing work that we've created over the past year. These are just little bits and pieces of it. And we're excited to keep going. Next year's Ethical Explorers is happening. We're going to be sending out lots of information this summer about registration for next year's programming. I also want to remind people about Sunday summer programming. We're going to start doing field trips to the parks in our local neighborhood next Sunday. Those do require permission slips. You can come see me about those, or Bethany in the office knows where they are and can point you. And we also have our Songs for Justice camp coming up. So you're going to be getting lots of emails about summer programming coming up, but it's all good stuff, so please pay attention and respond. Thank you all so much for your attention.
Good morning. Excuse me. The First Unitarian Society is a congregational humanist community. We are here for each other, our neighbors, and our planet. One manifestation of that is our caring team. I'm Carol Barclay, and I'm a member of that team. If at any time there's something happening in your life that you would like to share, or you would like to contact someone, please let us know. You can call the office, or you can send a note to joysandconcerns@firstunitarian.org. There's also an option to contact the care team using a contact form in our website. After the assembly, you're invited to stop by the card basket, which is downstairs, and send a note to folks that you know of that were unable to attend today, and or people that we mention in joys and concerns. This morning we hold in care the family and friends of Sarah Milgram and Jan Lisinski, the Israeli embassy aides who were shot and killed outside of the Capitol Jewish Museum on Wednesday. We rise in solidarity with the Jews around the world and condemn all acts of anti-Semitism. With equal fervor, we call for necessary and life-saving humanitarian aid to be allowed into Gaza and for an end to the violence being exacted upon the Palestinian people. That we may stay in touch with our own humanity, remember those who are suffering in particular today. Let's take some time in silence to reflect on the human experience, the joys, sorrows, and milestones in our lives and in the lives of those we love and the lives of all beings everywhere. May all be safe and happy and well. Now for a moment of silence.
Today's wisdom moment is "It Feels Good to Be Yourself" by Teresa Thorne. There should be slides. Okay, there we go. This is Ruthie. She is a transgender girl. That means when she was born, everyone thought she was a boy. Until she grew a little older, old enough to tell everyone that she is actually a girl. Girl is Ruthie's gender identity. This is Ruthie's brother, Xavier. Xavier is a cisgender boy. That means when Xavier was born, everyone thought he was a boy, and as he grew older, it turns out everyone was right. Boy is Xavier's gender identity. There are so many different ways to be a boy or a girl. But not everyone feels like either a boy or a girl. Non-binary is a helpful word that can describe a kid who doesn't feel exactly like a boy or exactly like a girl. This is Ruthie's friend Alex. Alex is both a boy and a girl. When Alex was born, everyone thought Alex was a girl. But Alex is both boy and girl. This is Alex's gender identity. This is Alex's friend JJ. JJ is neither a boy nor a girl. Ever since JJ was very little, they never felt exactly like a boy or a girl. They just felt like themselves. This is JJ's gender identity. Alex and JJ are both non-binary. Just like there are many different ways to be a boy or a girl, there are many different ways to be non-binary. Some kids feel like girls and some kids feel like boys. Some kids feel a little bit of both, part girl and part boy. And some kids don't feel exactly like a boy or a girl. They feel like neither. Some kids feel that their gender identity isn't always the same. And even with all of these possible ways to be, some kids don't feel any of the words fit them just right. There are many different ways to be yourself in this world. Whether you feel like a boy or a girl, both or neither, or if you describe yourself in another way, that is your gender identity. Your gender identity might match what people thought you were when you were born, or it might not. See, when you were born, people couldn't tell who you were or how you felt. They looked at you and they made a guess. Maybe they got it right, or maybe they got it wrong. What the baby's body looks like can be a clue to what their gender might be, but not always. When people guess wrong, it's okay to let them know. Ruthie was 5 when she told her parents, "I know you think I'm a boy, but really, I feel like a girl." When people guess right, it's also okay to let them know. Xavier was 3.5 when he told his family, "I'm a boy. I like being a boy." You might feel like a boy or you might feel like a girl. You might feel like both a boy and a girl, or like neither. You might feel like your gender changes from day to day or even from year to year. You might feel like none of these words describe you perfectly, or you might not be sure yet. It's okay if you're still figuring it out. Your feelings about your gender are real. Listen to your heart. No matter what your gender identity is, you're okay exactly the way you are, and you are loved. It feels good to be yourself, doesn't it? Remember, no matter what your gender identity is, you're okay exactly the way you are, and you are loved.
It is my pleasure to welcome Laura Smidzik today. I did it, yeah. She is currently a part-time pastoral care minister at First Universalist Church in Minneapolis. She long served Merging Waters Unitarian Universalist Congregation, which was previously Michael Servetus Unitarian Society, from 2016 until this past June. Prior to ministry, Laura served as an executive director of Project 515 and Rainbow Families, 2 statewide LGBTQ organizations. So, welcome, Laura.
So I want to start by just saying what a joy it is to be with all of you today. I see familiar faces in the chairs that are no longer pews. Rock on, everybody. I served, as Jane mentioned, I served 8 years at Michael Servetus, now Merging Waters. And that society, originally it was a society, actually stemmed from this congregation. So a group of folks who were in a book group in Fridley would drive down south to this building, and they would meet, regularly to study books. And they found a small Episcopalian church in Fridley. A group of them bought it, and Michael Servetus began. So this is kind of the root system of the congregation I served. And the building in Fridley, which is now part of the Turkish American Society of Minnesota, was a small Episcopalian church, kind of New England style, very charming. It had a sanctuary with 1 aisle and pews on both sides that fit about 4 people, maybe 5 if you smushed. We ended up selling the building just because it really was not accessible at all. But I was installed in this building because we couldn't really do an installation over there. And so where you see these pictures here, there were photos of folks from our congregations and of the small New England building sitting where these photos are today. So this place will always hold a special place in my heart. And so I'm very grateful to be here. I'm also grateful to Reverend Julian who invited me to talk today. And as I considered what I was going to share with you, my heart just kept redirecting me back to this topic. This faith tells us to be open to revelation, which in my mind means constant change, learning, and transformation. And we speak of being united in our broad and inclusive outlook and in our shared values of interdependence and pluralism, justice, transformation, generosity, and equity for all, and all of those centered in love. My adult life connected to congregations and nonprofit organizations have offered me lived experiences in all of those shared values, and I know that I am a better person because of it. I start today with a great deal of gratitude for the many beloveds in the trans and non-binary community of people of all ages who were teachers in my life, those who have lived authentic lives despite the hurdles and challenges that were set in front of them. And I start with recognition that because of their honesty and courage and creativity, I have moved from a clueless suburban child and young adult into a person who feels called to speak out and side with love. My talk today isn't about an abstract call to social justice. It's about grounding ourselves in beliefs of Unitarian Universalism, the privilege of living in this state, and in the hard and holy work that is being done by organizations and congregations as we respond and do whatever we can at this point in history. So Minnesota isn't a perfect state by far, we know that. But it has been a mecca of sorts for queer and trans folks for as long as I can remember. I moved here in '91, so that's how far my memory goes. So let me just cite a few historic moments for those of you who may not be aware. Over 30 years ago, what is now named Outfront Minnesota created a broad coalition and worked with legislators to pass a human rights bill with protections from discrimination in housing, public accommodations, and employment based on sexual orientation or gender identity. I don't think people were really using those words that much back then. It was and still is one of the most inclusive anti-discrimination laws in the country. And as many of you recall, after years of organizing and defeating a ballot measure, a bill was passed in 2013 making same-sex marriage legal in Minnesota. In between those two dates and beyond them, so much work has been done to create safe and affirming schools, medical care, communities, and workplaces throughout our state. And in March 2023, our legislature passed the Trans Health Refuge Bill. This is a proactive legislation that prevents state courts or officials from complying with child removal requests, extraditions, arrests, or subpoenas related to gender-affirming health care that a person in Minnesota receives. It's kind of frightening that that actually had to be passed. As our one out trans legislator, Representative Lee Finke, said, to all those families across the United States that are afraid and wondering where they can go for help, Minnesota is saying, we see you, we love you, and you belong here. And although our governor has not always sided with all the way on specific justice issues that we may want him to, he has been good in terms of trans policy. I was at the Capitol for Trans Day of Visibility rally in late March, and he held up a declaration saying that Monday, March 31st was Trans Day of Visibility across the state of Minnesota. And as he spoke to us, this small but vocal crowd he called out the current administration that has, as he said, chosen to demonize a marginalized community for their own selfish reasons. And he called us all, saying, now is the time to stand up. So we're fortunate to call this state our home. I don't take it for granted. And we can use that privilege to support others. When I was executive director back in 2006, 2007, Phil Duran was one of my co-conspirators, close to 20 years ago, I would regularly talk to my peers across the nation who ran similar organizations. We, here in Minnesota, had more parents involved in rainbow families who identified as trans than there were in San Francisco or New York. I know, it's kind of stunning. I mean, incisibly more number of people. And I believe that the primary reason is that 50-year-old program in human sexuality at the U attracts people from across the country, trans adults and families with trans children. The program was actually given the status of being elevated to an institute in the Department of Family Medicine and Community Health at the University of Minnesota in 2021. Their research and their educational endeavors are seriously a beacon of influence that is both international, national, and local in terms of policy and care. Faculty work to raise awareness of sexual rights as an inherent part of universal human rights based on freedom, dignity, and equality. And of course, many of you must be familiar that there are numerous organizations in our state that explicitly serve trans kids and families and gender expansive folks and their families that live here. So we are truly fortunate. I have to say that prior to the November election, it felt to me like we were on the precipice of becoming a country where more of us would be included in that we of the United States of America. But as you know, we find ourselves now led by a fascist government that literally came out with an executive order stating that the policy of the United States, I just can't even believe these executive orders, is to only recognize two sexes, male and female. And we have a president that wears his hat with his campaign slogan to give the West Point commencement speech yesterday, where he continued anti-trans and anti-inclusion tirade. Not only is this ludicrous to think that the strike of a pen or hostile words can extinguish the identity of so many Americans, but it's cruel. And most importantly, it is dangerous for so many beloveds in our congregations, in our communities, in our country. I love the book that you heard earlier. It's just one that makes my heart sing. It's the world I want to live in. And I know that there is no way to stop kids and adults alike to come to know their true identities and to let them speak that out loud. We all know that the current vicious backlash of anti-queer and anti-trans legislation is unprecedented. Everywhere across the globe, across time, there have been battles of power and rights and access to who gets to shape the predominant narrative. And at the same time, this moment is so much more intense than I've ever known in my adult life. And so many beloveds who are in what are referred to as marginalized groups are being used as pawns in a dangerous strategic power grab by conservatives in power who are going unchecked by conservatives in other branches of government. Conservatives have the spotlight and the microphone, and they are loud and bold, relentless and far-reaching and strategic. Conservative leaders bring forth what the magazine The Nation calls underground streams of hatred into the light of legitimate political discourse. We must not allow their language or their laws to ever be seen as legitimate, not on our watch. I wish I could tell you how to stop what is happening. We are all living through this rise of fascism, and fascism requires division and scapegoats and fear and terror, and that is the reality we are living in. So we need to breathe and take care of ourselves and look for moments of light and hope and service that we can provide to make this country what we want it to be and to take care of our beloveds. I am grateful to be a UU at a time like this because it's not just individual congregations that are embracing trans and gender expansive folks. At our foundation, we have articulated beliefs and values centering in love. At last June's annual Unitarian Universalist General Assembly, there was a vote on a resolution titled, our resolutions are titled very long names, so I'll say this a little slowly, Embracing Transgender, Non-Binary, and Intersex People is a fundamental expression of UU religious values. A fundamental expression. Thank you. Remember that, because I think it's important to remember what's fundamental to us. There's several pages of text, if you want to go read it, explaining kind of the history of past actions and resolutions. And there's an explanation about why it's important for us as UUs to proclaim our faith, that our faith unequivocally honors and celebrates the full spectrum of gender identity and expression. The resolution proclaims that being transgender or identifying with any gender other than the one assigned at birth is a beautiful and divine manifestation of humanity. I'll read that again since I fumbled a bit. Being transgender or identifying with any gender other than the one assigned at birth is a beautiful and divine manifestation of humanity. That's the world I want to live in. We know what is needed for people to thrive. We know what love, affirmation, seeing oneself mirrored and in others and receiving appropriate care can do for the development of people across all ages of the lifespan. For young people to know that they may have been born as one gender but are really another, gender-affirming care is imperative, and it is a basic right. Professionals have taken long, careful, ethical, and developmentally appropriate measures to assist children and youth and adults and families to gain life-affirming care. Don't let the conservatives tell you otherwise. Dr. Angela Cade Gepford, who's the Chief Educational Officer and Medical Director of the Gender Health Program at Children's Minnesota, says, "This care isn't new. This care is not fast. The care is evidence-based, and it is evidence-based. It is age and developmentally appropriate." She says, "The controversy around the care is new, and it has been constructed over the past few years. But this care itself is not new, and the care itself is not controversial." I have many beloveds who are what I would call liberal, but struggling a bit with, kind of what they've been hearing on the news. And I think it's important for us to gain some chops into how we can talk about what's happening in the world of our beloveds who are trans and non-binary and not let the conservative narrative rule the day. In every congregation I have served or participated in, I've known trans, gender fluid, and non-binary young people and adults who depend on gender-affirming care. It's not an abstraction. It's not something that's happening to them. These laws, although they are being blocked here in Minnesota, they impact our families, they impact our beloveds, and they impact us. As we've heard before, and we will say again and again, liberation tells us that no one is free until everyone is free. And the beloved among us who are trans and gender expansive are whole and holy. The lives of trans and gender expansive people are sacred and loving lives that make our lives much sweeter. So organizing to support folks who live in the states with hostile laws has been going on for years, prior to this recent election and administration, for sure. In October of 2023, local UU congregations were contacted by the coordinator for congregational activism at the UUSC, the UU Service Committee. The person who's the coordinator wrote to us and said that as many of you know, this was in 2023, as many of you know, our trans and gender expansive beloveds are being criminalized at unprecedented levels across the country, which has led to more than 100,000 people which has led more than 100,000 people to relocate already, 100,000 people, with many more looking to move to safer states soon. The situation is so dire that trans and gender expansive people qualify as internally displaced people, IDPs, according to the standards of the UN. She continued that UUs as a faith have been quietly responding to this need by following the lead of frontline trans organizers. Minnesota and the Twin Cities area in particular is a popular location for individuals and families who are looking to relocate. That was 2 years ago. Imagine the numbers now. That same year, in 2023, a number of UU congregations joined an online meeting with the representative from the UUSC and a trans organizer. Lisa Freeman, who serves at the UU Church in Minnetonka, and I were able to meet the two for lunch. The meeting was like nothing else I've ever been to in the past. I'm not sure if the trans organizer from the group Pink Haven ever actually gave us their name. And the way they talked about moving people who they called passengers felt like I was in the middle of a contemporary rendition of the Underground Railroad. Hostilities and harassment of queer advocates, service providers, and researchers has increased across the country. And there was great concern for the security of the organizers of Pink Haven, which is the organization we were meeting with. I have to say that it was disorienting and disconcerting. It made me realize how serious all of this was and is, and what risk people in some parts of this country are taking to be part of a hidden system that is getting people in hostile environments what they need. So I recommend that you Google the UU World article on Pink Haven, if you haven't already heard of Pink Haven, and then check out their website so you can learn more. Pink Haven is the organization that the Unitarian Universalists have been working with over the past couple of years. They describe their goal as we are a collective of organizations and individuals who are committed to trans liberation and joy and to growing community defense, mutual aid, and alternative systems of care for gender diverse people. A number of local congregations are currently hosting what we call rainbow refugees who have come from other states. Justice teams are rallying congregations to help with rent, setting up living spaces, transportation, connections to resources, and more. First Universalist, where I serve, is hosting a young person who moved here about 6 months ago, and we also just held a baby shower for a couple that recently settled into an apartment behind the church. Their baby was born that same week, and the congregation is supporting them in all ways possible. Feels like a drop in the whole ocean, but I believe, we got to kind of like, I don't know if you guys know that starfish story where like it mattered to that one. That's what I feel like every single one matters. So I hear that discussions are starting here to see how this congregation can be more actively involved in supporting folks who are coming here through Pink Haven. I imagine the numbers will grow as families and their individuals reach breaking points and that they find they need to leave their home states where they can find a place where that's less hateful, where harmful rhetorics and laws are no longer continuing to grow. Find a place like Minnesota. More people will come to the blue states with greater protections and access to care and community. I don't know about you guys, but I can't imagine having to leave your home as an immigrant, internationally displaced people, or as a person that recognizes that there are places safer than where I am right now, just across a state line. I felt a little bit of that before marriage equality, and I'm sure those of you who are queer understand what that looks like. But people create lives where they are connected to families and schools and churches and community and employment and friends. And when people come here, all of those are left behind for those families and individuals who decide to move to a safe state. Places where they can live and find reflections of themselves and community, and where their lives are not censored or forbidden. So here, we must remain diligent to continue to provide protection for our sacred and beloved trans folks and for their families who live here. If you do nothing else, I urge you to not remain silent about your support for trans folks and about how harmful what is happening in this country is. I recommend that you pay attention to the Unitarian Universalist Side with Love office, which is offering actions that you can take to counter what is happening, and they've also been offering monthly gatherings to help sustain us in this work. And if you find people in your lives who have been pulled into the lies and the false research and the straight, white, heteronormative, female athletes' fear and manipulation, I recommend that you check out the Transforming Hearts Collective, which is staffed by UUs and is UU adjacent. Our organization Moose Jaw, which many of you might be familiar with, the UU Social Justice Alliance, they're hosting a 3-part series in June online that any of us can sign up for that was created by the collective. I found their work to be really helpful in moving the needle for some folks and in opening them up to greater understanding and compassion. And literally, I was talking with my in-laws the other night about trans athletes. Again, we seem to hit this like every 2 months after they watch too much news. And they just, to wrap their brain around it, it just takes numerous conversations. We know that there are so many people in our country who do not want to see these extreme laws happening. But we all know that what Side with Love reminds us of, that is, majorities don't protect people unless we are active. Majorities don't protect people unless we are active. And this is life-saving, faithful action to stand up about trans rights. I see it as our religious imperative, and I hope you can find ways to act, whether that's in large or small ways. I really do believe silence isn't an option. So I hope you will join me in this journey of love centered around our shared values and in collaboration and in support of our trans and gender affirming siblings. May it be so.
So it's time to sing. Please stand as you're willing or able, and we're going to sing number 1053 in the Teal songbook, How Could Anyone?
We're going to sing it twice through.
Twice through.
Your loving is Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Beautiful day, the day before Memorial Day. Makes me think about how happy I am to be with this group every Sunday, either online or here, and what a great welcoming community we have here. I'm just very thankful for that. My name is Barb Lutz. I serve on the foundation, and I'm a very happy long-term member of FUS. The First Unitarian Society is a free, independent, and self-governing humanist community. As members and friends of this community, we share the gifts of our time, energy, our creativity, our imagination and vision, our talents, our skills, and our treasure. And I just want to mention, too, that while we want your treasure, but there are so many people here that give so much of their time and energy. It's just really grateful. I'm really grateful to be part of this congregation. Your financial support is an important element in turning our shared vision into reality. You can give online, where you can choose to support Reclaim, or in the congregation more recently. The QR code on the screen will take you to our online giving form, or you can go to our website, firstunitarian.org, and designate how you'd like your donation to be credited. You can also stop by the office or mail in your donation. Now, as the baskets are passed, we invite you to generously and joyfully give as you are willing and able. Thank you.
Good morning, all y'all. I'm so glad to be with each and every one of you today. For those who do or do not know who I am, I'm Justice Renee. I go with she, her pronouns. I'm a member, actually former member of the FUS transition team. The FUS transition team is focused on preparing the congregation to start to ask the question of what do we want in a future senior minister. And these are things, for instance, from the Foraging for Our Foundation, Foraging for Our Future conversations that we have once a month, as well as after this mini meal that we're going to have downstairs, we will have our History Smash. And for today, we're going to have I wanted to give you a little bit of a snippet to tie into it. But first, I must thank every member of our team, which is going to be Adele Hansen, Cindy Picata, Amy and Hoyt Dreyer, Wendy, up there, hey you Wendy, and George Green. I'm stepping down to join the Board of Trustees, but those individuals will be doing an amazing job to continue forwarding more dialogue and conversations to bring what we want in a senior minister. And I hope that you can attend after the mini meal, our History Smash. And to give you a snippet, okay, here we go. Gotta get all in the mood here. Okay. The 1960s shook campuses, courthouses, public spaces, and our congregation was the support group for gay men. Sudden expression of too long festering injustices. Society members were awake and quickly involved in every cause. Following Carl Storm's ministry, we were fortunate to have called Bob Lehman, for Bob excelled in facing difficult situations. On his own, Bob Lehman was counseling men seeking to avoid the Vietnam War draft. And take note, as a society early on, we were divided on the rightness of that war. We were much less divided as years went on, and as Bob and our forum speakers brought more facts. And do we have the photo? There we go. This is a photo of Bob Lehman. Also on his own, Bob hosted a support group for gay men. Realized that we were coming out of the repressive and often unrealistic 1950s. Bob spoke with the facts about sexuality from the pulpit. The civil rights of people of color was a huge cause that united Unitarian Universalists nationally and cost the lives of at least 2 UUs in the South. We'd had active black members here for decades, but now many First Society members organized with Northsiders to demand equal employment opportunities for everyone. Women in the society had been powerful since our founding, when we were some of the signers of the original incorporation document, but signed as Miss Friedrich so-and-so and Mrs. Friedrich so-and-so. Women had always actively fundraised, led education efforts. They hosted a Head Start program here in this very building. And they led social justice efforts in our city and across our state. During these new decades, Leila Lange initiated what would become our endowment, the FUS Foundation. Carol Quall started the Minnesota Council for Legal Termination of Pregnancy, which is today's NARL. They staffed the phones with Bob McCoy to provide safe abortion referral advice services. And showing off their collegial creativity, women wove a giant white macrame that covered the front wall of this upper assembly for over a decade. The congregation was still paying for the additions to this building in these years, and we were sorely stretched financially. Our adult membership numbers, around 800, prompted us to call associate ministers to support Bob Lehman. Lawrence Beebe, Richard Perry, and Carl Holtberg filled this position for 1 or 2 year stretches. After Bob's retirement, when we called Corin Arizian as minister, one of our associates, if you want to pop up, associate ministers thought he'd been terminated before his contract was up with us and sued. The case became an embarrassment before the whole UU Association when the National UU General Assembly was held here in Minneapolis. Still, we needed help with a congregation this size. Corin worked with an astonishing, generous volunteers and astonishingly generous non-ministerial staff. Carol Isaac, you know her currently as Carol Barkley, was our first membership director. Our chorus was now huge at over 70 voices. And we had a large orchestra too. Carrie John Franklin came on as the music director, following Charles Sigmund and Yuri Barnea. Beth Brownfield joined us as director of religious education in 1986. We were well nourished educationally by Corin's Sunday addresses, a continuing vigorous forum series at 10 a.m., and nationally known speakers coming to us through the Salkin, Curry, and Dietrich Endowed Lecture Series. When David Sheehan of the Christic Institute spoke here, we had to have police protection as he was investigating the Iran-Contra affair. In 1991, Corin and our members took a leap and called Ann Odin Hetler as co-minister. Do we have that? Yes, we do. Ann excelled in congregational organizing. She spearheaded the Retreat to the Woods program, which is so much fun. You got to go this year. Annual weekend we had, and the not-so-subtle women's discussions of Ladies Sewing and Terrorist Society. Anne left for a denominational position in 1994, while Corin stayed with us for another 3 years until 1997. There we go. Above are two photos of just two of our many social action efforts. Some of us marching for AIDS awareness and Tibetan monks thanking us for our hands-on settlement efforts from 1991 to 1993. At 12:15, following our mini meal, I hope to see each and every one of you up here so you can hear so much more about our society of ventures. Come join with us and history smash with us.
Announcements? It's a song in my script. Okay. Guess we do. Okay. So as Justice mentioned, next week we're going to have another Foraging for Our Future session next Sunday, June 1st, from 12:15 to 2:15, right here in this room. And that one is going to be about covenant and relationship. So we'll talk about our commitments to one another, our expectations of each other, and the role of boundaries. All are welcome to come and participate. If you'd like to request childcare, or if you want to attend online and need a link, please contact the FUS office. Next Sunday is our first Sunday in the Park, with the FUS children and youth being invited to join Zola on walks to the neighborhood parks. So Sundays in June and then again in August. Permission slips can be found in the FUS office, and children younger than 8 years old must be accompanied by an adult chaperone. So more information coming soon. Today at 12:15, we also have the casting workshop in the Skyline Room for all those interested in joining the upcoming summer solstice celebration. So the seasonal celebrations team is looking for adult and child performers and readers. There's also going to be a second casting workshop next Sunday before service at 9 a.m. if you'd rather do the history smash and then you want to come at 9 next week. After assembly, for those in the building, please join us downstairs for conversation and our weekly mini meal. Today's mini meal is Asian rice bowls or grab-and-go buffet, chef's choice. I'm very curious. Thank you for helping us to support the cost of our weekly mini meal. And if you're able, please put in a little extra so that we can graciously host newcomers and those who might not be able to give today. You'll find a donation jar and credit card reader at the front of the line for the mini meal donations, or you can scan a QR code. Okay. Are we doing the extinguishing now? So I'm out of order. The song is next. Okay. That was confusing. Yeah. Simone comes up to extinguish our chalice, please join me in speaking the words on the screen. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. All of these we carry in our hearts and in our minds until we are together again.
And we close with the words, once again, of Reverend Sean Parker Dennison, who had the opening words. Sean is a trans UU minister who wrote a beautiful collection of poetry. Their piece is titled To Invoke Love. To invoke love is to ask for a hug from a thunderstorm, spill tea in the lap of the infinite trickster, to make the biggest, most embarrassing mistake of your life in front of everyone who matters. To invoke love is to never know if it will come softly with the muzzle of a beloved dog or pounce right on your chest with the strength of a lioness protecting her cub, her pride, her homeland. To invoke love is to take the risk of inviting chaos to visit spaces you spent so much time making tidy and watch as the breath of life scatters everything you have only just folded and put away. To invoke love is to allow for the possibility that your words and actions might become so empowered you can no longer believe in apathy or the self-righteous idea that nothing can change. To invoke love is to give up self-depreciation, false humility, pride, to consider yourself worthy to be made whole, willing to encounter love that will never let us go. To invoke love is to guard against assumptions, take care with our words, and practice forgiveness, not as an ethereal idea, but right here, in the midst of this messy and our imperfect lives. To invoke love is to approach each day and every person with wonder, anticipating love's arrival. Is this the moment? Is this love's grand entrance? Is this person the embodiment of that love? Am I the one? To invoke love is to play the fool, the one more concerned with loving than with appearance or reputation, the one ready and willing to be vulnerable, abandoning anything that gets in love's way. To invoke love is to be ready to become love, here, now, in everything we do. Are you ready?